Failures in the DR Congo. On this channel, we not only try to identify some of the things ailing the continent, but we try to do a deep dive into how to solve some of the problems we face. We try to give historical context, but for the most part we concentrate on what to do moving forward. No country on the continent has suffered the resource curse longer than the DR Congo. The country has always been in the news for one kind of turmoil or another. But I'm specifically going to limit myself to what has happened under the leadership of the current President Félix Tshisekedi. When President Félix came to power in 2019, he did something that I thought was a strategic masterclass. The processes of expelling the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo MONUSCO. The mission had been ineffective for decades. Then led his country into becoming a full member of the East African Community. The reason I thought this was brilliant was as follows. If you look at the map of the Congo, you will notice something. All the rich resource mines are located in the east side of the Congo. As you would imagine, this is also the part of the country that faces the most unrest. The DR Congo is a huge country. Due to years of mismanagement, a lot of institutions do not work as they should, and this is even by continental standard. For example, basic infrastructure between the west to the east is nearly non-existent. That means transporting even the most basic of goods is nearly impossible. The other challenge is that years of corruption and mismanagement has left the country's army virtually ineffective. Becoming a member of the East African Community, EAC, took advantage of three things. The infrastructure from the East Africa to the Eastern Congo is usable. The East African communities can and did offer up assistance with dealing with insurgency in the region. The EAC countries have extensive experience in Somalia and South Sudan. The last and certainly not the least. The insurgents in the eastern part of the country tend to be multi-regional. That means they have ties to neighboring countries, example Rwanda and Uganda. Having a guided East African approach would, I thought, eliminate any cracks that would have come up. Fast forward years later and the president has bungled up a most important strategic opportunity. He is openly castigating leaders of a bloc he is supposed to be a part of. Most prominent of which is President Kagame of Rwanda. He even likened the Rwandan president to Hitler. An interesting choice of comparison, not King Leopold, who killed way more Congolese people. He either does not know his own country's history or he was targeting a particular audience. But now that he has conjured up this demon in his mind, he must try to exorcise it. But he can't, because the army of which he is commander-in-chief has repeatedly been repelled by the rebel fighters. In spite of whatever comparison the President Félix wants to make, he would still be wrong. The countries that border the DR Congo have as much of a stake in stability in the region. Not acknowledging that is only to a country's detriment. And this is not exclusive to the Congo. Most countries that border a country in turmoil have a strategic reason to have that country stable. It's true with Kenya in Somalia or Nigeria in Niger. Alienating the people who could help you is monumental strategic blunder. Having alienated this country's President Félix now faces a tough job. He has sought help from other places on the continent. From the Southern African Development Cooperation, SADC. South Africa has thus agreed to send forces to try return stability to the region. As much as I respect the South African forces as in force, they have a few challenges they will have to overcome. The logistics of getting a force into the theater is a challenge in itself. They do not, like the East African countries, have a logistical advantage. South Africa does not have the same level of experience dealing with this kinds of engagements, let's say, as Kenya or Uganda. They have a cultural and language gap. The DR Congo speaks French, Swahili and various local languages. Countries in the east side of Africa share not only language but also culture. Getting information to find out who is friend and who is foe is going to prove a challenge for the South Africans. The government of Cyril Ramaphosa is about to plunge itself into a quagmire that they might not easily get themselves out of. The only hope I see for President Félix is to try to backtrack. Use diplomatic channels to reach out to Kigali, Kampala and Nairobi, and usher the country into the modernity of stability.